Hi, this is Mike Ross, public address announcer for your Toronto Maple Leafs, and this is the Leafs Late Night Podcast, your post-game destination. And now, your starting lineup: Roscoe, the Penalties, Southey, Biehner, and Darty Brodeur on the Leafs Late Night Podcast.
Welcome back to Leafs Late Night. I'm your host, Roscoe, joined by Biehner tonight, who is joining us from a hotel room. Where are you?
Nowhere crazy right now, just down in St. Catharines, working down here for the week. So,
oh, lovely. Well, welcome to Leafs Late Night, presented by Inside the Rink, where it's never too late for the Leafs, except in overtime, apparently, where it's always too late for the Leafs. I don't know what's going on, man. 1-5 now in overtime? Come on. It's one thing to leave points on the table, but now it's like that's a lot of points left now.
When it doesn't make sense. Like, they play with so much confidence and they can do things that, a lot of other teams can't do or don't even try to do during the course of the regulation time. And then in overtime, it's like they all just completely lose their minds and forget how to play.
Yeah, and I'd say of any team in the NHL to go against 3-on-3, the Islanders, like, pick any three players on that team and put them against any three on the Leafs, and the Leafs should win. Like, it just, I'm not saying like first to fourth line, but like first to first line, second to second, like all the way down, the Leafs are better if you just put a 3-on-3 situation in there. So I don't understand this. It's all in their heads now, as we saw, because Willie's been fantastic, and those mistakes were inexcusable.
Those were horrible.
Yeah, I've never seen somebody ice it twice on the same shift and then proceed to cough the puck up. Like
both his passes, he kind of handcuffed Matthews with them. They weren't even close to where they should have been. He was way off target with them. And then I don't know what he was doing. Like, I get it. You wanted to make sure that you could get some changes happening, but to just completely cough it up like that, worst case scenario, dump it in.
Hot and ready, baby. So frustrating. So,
what's the Swedish pizza? Like, what do they get on their pizzas in Sweden? Because that's Sandine, and then now Willie, and you got Shalden behind the net on the tying goal.
It's some sort of flatbread with some sort of white cream-like cheese, a smoked fish, some capers, some raw onion and dill. That's what I'm picturing.
Some meatballs made out of horse meat.
Oh, okay.
IKEA.
Oh, man. Remember the IKEA monkey? Remember that whole saga?
Yes.
For anybody who is unfamiliar with that, there was a woman who had she went to an IKEA and she had this monkey in her car. It was in Toronto, and it got out of the car and like came into the store looking for her, and it was wearing like a peacoat jacket. Like, this thing was very well trained, but anyway, she got nailed because you obviously can't have one of those as a pet in Ontario. So, womp womp. Just only
in Toronto. Like,
unbelievable. Okay, so let's start this one at the beginning. Leafs started on time all across Twitter. Everyone's like, "Oh my God, Leafs started on time." They came out. This is just from what I was reading, because I was on my way home from work as the puck dropped. I came in and turned it on about, I think it was 15:30 left in the first period, and the shots were 7-0 for the Leafs. And I'm like, damn, all right, this is the kind of game I'm coming into. I like this. Leafs sat at 7 shots for the next 13 minutes. So what did I miss in the first 5, and what the hell happened?
It's weird because we're not used to seeing this team start like that. Like, that's the Islanders' style, right? We've talked a lot about how Lou has built or just kind of stumbled into this team where they've got a lot of veterans, they've got a lot of NHL players, but it's basically a team full of third liners plus Matthew Barzal
that are all making $4.5 to $5.5 million for the next 6 years.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the style they're going to have to play. That's how they're going to have to, eke out wins and get as many points as they can to try to sneak into the playoffs, is rely on Sorokin. and play that kind of style, they're gonna sit back and they're gonna try to take their chances when they can get them, but they're not overly offensive. They're ridiculously boring. Like that's what it is.
Yeah, and 51 hits on the night for the Islanders. And I mean, I know, like we say, you can only hit when you don't have the puck, but 51-21 is a pretty rough. Like the Leafs got beat up tonight, man. I'm just glad Matthews was okay after that knee on knee.
What everything tonight? Like you had the Matthews one, you had Hall running into Marner, you had the Riley one. Like
Yeah.
it was like a comedy of errors out there.
Well, it seems that no more players on the Columbus Blue Jackets can be injured, so the curse has now been passed on to the Leafs. It's just going to make its way around the league. Like, I don't know what's going on, man.
We already had it in our crease.
Ugh, can't do this again. There's and man, the report on TJ Brody, they said this timeline's looking worse than they thought. Like that's not good. So hopefully Morgan Riley was mostly just held out on concussion protocol and isn't actually hurt too bad, because that it didn't look really like a it just because I guess he didn't see it coming, so he wasn't braced for it, right? Like that's how you can get the most hurt, I guess, from something like that, is just running into someone when you don't know they're coming. Like it could just be whiplash and
Well, you can even see it with the Matthews knee on knee with Wallstrom, right? Like the very, very last second, he starts to bring his
yeah.
leg back to flex it up. And even, he only was able to move it maybe a fraction of an inch or maybe an inch max from where it initially was before the impact. But the fact that the motion was already started to go away, that would take away so much of the impact that would help prevent injury. Whereas Riley wasn't even looking. So he's probably got at least half of his weight on that leg, right? As he's just, coming across the ice. So
Here,
that's where it gets dangerous.
I have something from my personal life that I can relate to this. So, for those that are new here, I work on movies, and we were shooting a Lifetime thriller where there was a scene where someone gets hit by a car, and we had a stunt actor in to, literally stand in front of this car that was coming at him. And they told us, like the stunt coordinator told us, like, hey, just don't be alarmed. I'm gonna hit him with the car. We're like, are you sure? He's like, no, trust me. Like, we know what we're doing. We're like, okay. And he did exactly what Matthews did when he saw that knee coming. So this kid had, like, the car's coming at him, and just as it starts to slow down, because obviously they're not coming at him full speed at the last second, but just as it's about to hit him, he jumps and pulls his legs back so that they kind of go with the car, and he's able to just kind of collapse onto the front of the car. And all of us thought, like, your knees are toast. And he's like, no, I'm fine. And it's exactly what Matthews did there. Is that split second that he had to pull his leg back is the reason that we are not missing him right now.
Yeah, exactly. That anything that you can do whatsoever to lessen the impact is gonna the littlest movement will make a massive difference. And the fact that he even just got the momentum started by pulling his leg, just starting to pull it back. Basically, his leg was just kind of in the way there.
Yeah.
It wasn't bracing anything or supporting anything. David Alter just tweeted out that Keefe says Riley's going to have to get some pictures done tomorrow on his injury. So that's not good.
Pictures on what?
My guess would be knee. I haven't seen anything yet, but
Oh, I hope it's not something bad. Oh, jeez. Well, like I tweeted, the hockey gods giveth and the hockey gods taketh away. We were spared Matthews, but they took Riley, and now we are down Muzzin, Brody, and Riley. So,
if that would have been the case, I hate to say it, Mo, but I'll take that trade off.
unfortunately, like if one of the two of them, yeah, it's just anybody on the team to go down, I would not want it to be Riley. Ugh, the defense is so empty right now. But they've been playing well in the absence of, two of their biggest defensive defensemen, right? So the fact that they picked up all this depth, like everyone was saying, what are they going to do with all these guys? Well, this is exactly what they're going to do. We're going to see Mete come back, I'm sure.
I was just going to say, it as much as I don't want to see Mo go out, it's a good chance for Riley to get back, or for Mete to get back in. and show that he can put some valuable minutes up for us, right? Completely different styles, but as long as everybody plays to their strengths and doesn't try to do something that they're not, like, yes, okay, it was great Jordy Ben coming in and scoring his first game and that, but he's not that type of defenseman.
No. So between, let's call it Mete, Ben, Lily and Sandine, and Gio and Hall, who's your first pair?
I would have to say Gio and Lily. They were great in the playoffs last year.
That's fair. I would, yeah, actually putting those two together makes sense.
But
I,
the only issue with that is, what are you doing, Sandine and Hall? Maybe in a year from now, but at the way Sandine's been playing, I don't know if I trust him with Hall right now. Hall's been better lately, but they've been kind of, I think they've been kind of watching his minutes or being careful of who he's out there with. Or I guess you could do Gio and Lily, Ben and Hall, and then Mete and Sandine. Like, that's not horrible. It's not ideal, but it's not horrible.
it's not ideal. And that kind of, I mean, sorry, I know we started on the game, we're getting off track here, but this is kind of where this is going. If Sandine, or sorry, if Riley is down too, we were already talking about Dubas making a move for a defenseman. I think like we could see him do it before the game against New Jersey at this point, if they think Riley's going to be down.
I guess it all comes down to that, right? And I know the getting crazy off track, the league, pretty much anybody in the league who's potentially looking for a defenseman is kind of on watch tonight as Chikrin comes in and plays his first game in how long for the Coyotes?
Yeah. I forgot he was debuting tonight.
Yeah.
Oh man, there's like I've got, I don't know, like I listed them off the other night. We still haven't gotten to them, but there's a bunch of guys. Do we want to touch on one of these? Like, I mean, John Klingberg's been mentioned because Anaheim is just not doing great. Matt Dumba. Like, is there anybody that you think makes sense? Luke Shen, Orlov,
Now,
DeMello.
as much as I always try to kind of take a step back and to not be a complete homer or a complete fanboy, or to try to think about it with my brain instead of my emotions, part of me would really love to see Shen come back in a lower role, and like, he's not going to come back to be our number one guy. That wouldn't be why we would get him. But part of me is like, yeah, it'd be kind of nice because he's that type of defenseman we would need right now. But that's with a healthy Morgan Riley. If we don't have a healthy Riley, as odd as it sounds, you almost need someone to fill those minutes. You need like this year's version of Gio, right? Someone who maybe is getting to the tail end of their career. They've played a lot of minutes in the past. They wouldn't be able to do it for a full season, but for 20 or 30 games, yeah, they could probably bump up into a 3-4 role when maybe they're more suited to a 5-6.
Yeah, but if you're also down if you're down Brody and Riley, does somebody like John Klingberg, who's on a 1-year deal, not make a little sense? Like somebody who's really like you're trying to fill top line minutes here, and this is a guy who's on a 1-year contract. So by the time all this LTIR's worked out, you're not stuck with something.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't mind taking a shot at Skeletor. I remember us talking about that last year when it was coming up on deadline time.
I mean, it seems like everybody, like you can talk about injuries. 3/4 of the league is hurt right now. So, I mean, you can almost throw that out the window.
Yeah, like basically the guys I would want to stay away from right now, money aside, because no matter who they're going to go after, it's going to be ridiculously challenging for Pridham and Dubas to keep it under the cap. Like, I'd be staying away from Carlson as much as people want to fantasize about somehow them making a move for that. There's no way.
There's no way San Jose is going to retain enough. Like they want to move away from this. Like the whole point of the talk around this, like San Jose is trying to drum up the talk around, can we get him? Because then it'll get GMs that are maybe not paying so much attention to pull the trigger on it, and they can get away with retaining like 25% or 35% instead of 50%.
Yeah. So, like, he's completely out of the question. I don't mind the idea of Klingberg. I didn't really think too much of it because I didn't. Obviously, before Riley was hurt, I didn't think we would need to go out and get that a defenseman of that stature, right? Maybe try to get Ghost out of Arizona. Like everybody's talking about Chikrin from Arizona, but Gostisbehere has had he's not the same guy he was when he broke into the league with Philly, but he's had a little bit of a resurgence. He's played a bunch of minutes.
He's been putting up pretty good numbers for being on Arizona, honestly. Like, if anybody on Arizona that's worth at least having in fantasy for a week is somebody that you know is doing something right. Like, it's not easy to even have your plus minus outweigh worth picking these guys up. But that was eventually the reason I had to drop him. But when they were winning a couple games, like if they're winning, he's on the score sheet, it seems.
I didn't, yeah, I didn't. I've always kind of liked Connor Murphy out of Chicago.
Me too.
He might
That
be
one's
kind
harder
of
though money wise because they have him signed till 26.
but no, I don't have it in front of me. I can't remember. I don't think it's a massive hit though, is it?
It's 4.4.
Yeah, it's big enough.
And the base salary is weird. It's 3, then 5.8, then 5.1, then 2.6.
Yeah, that is kind of weird.
They're trying to pay out more money at the beginning so that in this last year, if they have to move him, it's only 2.65. So I get it, but
Yeah,
it's like have a cap or don't.
Oh, it's so ridiculous, and the way everybody's been hurt this year, it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm just looking. I mean, Scott Mayfield was on my list, and that's one that we just saw play tonight. Makes 1.45, but I mean, like now we're talking. Before it was you've got Muzzin and Brody down. Now it's potentially you're down Riley. Like, I mean, fingers crossed it's not something serious, but if it's even like a month or two, we're looking at making more than an insignificant move here for like it's not going to be a seventh offender. And this is really going to be the first test of Dubas mid-season, going for something that the Leafs are in need of, instead of trade deadline comes around and he gets to sit on everything.
His name's been tossed about for a couple seasons now, as a possible target if they had to shed salary, but I don't know. No, he's got too much term left on his deal. Like a big splash at like a Sam Girard or something.
That's interesting because there's been a lot of talk of like they've got a log jam of young defensemen there between him and Byram and what's his name? So
Makar.
Not Makar. Don't they?
How could...
Not Makar. They have.
Sorry, I thought you forgot who Makar was.
Don't they have another like one underneath Byram and Gerard that they like don't even have room for now?
Oh, they do. Shit, what's his name again?
But honestly, to walk my point back, actually, I'm going to correct myself on Dubas making a move mid-season like this. This is pretty much the exact time that he got Ilya Lyubushkin last year, is it not? Or was it later? It might have been a little later.
I think Bush was just before the Heritage Classic.
Yeah, you know what? We were riding Nick Ritchie out longer than this because we saw him score in December.
One of a handful of people that can say they saw that.
Well, that was the thing is Southey and Steph and I went. We're like, fucking Nick Ritchie's going to score tonight. Watch, because we've been making fun of him all season how he doesn't score, and he's going to score tonight. Okay.
Like, someone like Dumba, I can't see Minnesota moving on from him.
I also don't like $6 million until
no.
Oh, it's actually he's up this year.
But like it, unless he's coming back and saying, "Nope, I'm not going to re-sign," they're going to want a haul back for him because he's been there so long. He's been such an integral part of that team.
He also has a modified no trade clause.
Like it'd be nice if Boston could put Mike Riley back on waivers again. Replace one Riley with another.
That'd be
Like,
funny, actually. Nikita Zadorov is the other one that I have open here.
but like
This year and next at 3.75.
you also got to think of where they're coming from. Like Mayfield from the Islanders, they're not going to move on from him right now because they're looking not horrible and they have a chance to make the playoffs, and that's not what Lou does. Calgary's not going to move on from Zadorov
That's fair.
unless shit really starts hitting the fan there, especially because he's Sutter's type of defenseman. He's a hard hitting, like in your face type of defenseman, right?
Yeah, honestly, we got to know what's going on with Riley, but I think it's going to be somebody more on the first, second pair and then the second, third pair. At least I hope. Okay, so we've gone on a huge tangent here. Back to the game. So the Leafs were great in the first couple minutes. Now, like I said, everything just slowed right down, which is what the Islanders are really good at, is just not producing much and not letting you produce much. And it just died. So they managed to catch up finally and rack up 6 or 7 shots over the next 12 minutes that the Leafs couldn't get one off. Oh, man.
Yeah, and like even the first goal against, you can't really blame Shalgren on that one too much. It was kind of a weird
Well,
shot through
Leaf, didn't it?
traffic, and yeah, like it sucks, but it seems like he's always letting something like that in. Like I was so close, I didn't do it, but I was so close to putting money on the Islanders this morning when I found out Shalgren was starting.
Yeah, it's been rough for him, man. It's like we said with we talk about a lot of people that are good for one thing a game, and it's like Shalgren's goals have just come against him in such bad positions. Like, you can let a bad one in if like you had the other night where you're up 5-1 to make it 5-2, fine. But like this is exactly what I was talking about, is like if that happens when you're not up 5-1, you got a lot of mistakes to make up for here, and they're still beating themselves, man. Even when they won, they were beating themselves. This is what I'm saying, man. Ugh. But what about that holding the stick call on Jordy Ben right after the goal?
I might have been into my chicken wings when that was going on because I watched the first period over at Montana's.
Nice. It was a pretty soft call, I gotta say. But nothing compared to the calls that would come in the second period. Oh my lord. Okay, second period opens. Leafs got a talking to, I assume, in the dressing room about their stale play in the second half of the first period. So JT with Nylander and Marner managed to put one in on a power play. Love it, love it, love it. Nice tip in front of the net from JT, as he, is known for. And honestly, just the power play, which I think it was probably the first 2 or 3 weeks, we're like, uh-oh, is it going to be stale again? And nah, they have been clicking every night. It's been, what's their power play percentage recently? Do you know? Maybe Mike has it here in his article.
I was going to say, give me a minute, but...
Second. No, that's okay. So JT scoring in his game number 300 with the Leafs, which is worth noting. He's gotten a lot of milestones lately, eh? It's been the month of milestones for the captain.
And like yet again, I bring it up every couple episodes. Marty was beating the Tavares drum all summer long. That he was going to have a hell of a year, and if you look at Tavares' career, he's basically mirrored what he did the first 300 games on the island. And the fact that he has essentially played half his career now, well, no, he has played half his career now with the Leafs. He's at a point where he's going to be remembered as a Leaf now, not as an Islander.
That is so fun, especially after, like, when he scores against the Islanders. I wish this was in Long Island because it's so fun hearing them boo every time he touches the puck. But, like, sorry, guys, it's Johnny Toronto now.
Absolutely.
Also,
and he's having
notable,
like hell of a season.
Notable on this goal, Mitch Marner extending his point streak just matching the New Jersey Devils win streak. Hey, what do you think's going to end first?
The Devils win streak.
Yeah, that's fair.
I called
So
this last
interestingly,
episode. The Leafs are going to end it.
yeah, I think it's interesting that both of these things have met at a 14-game streak together. So there is a way, technically, that they both continue on if New Jersey wins and Marner still gets a point. But I just think that's a fun little storyline that there's the colliding 13s. Anyhow, Austin Matthews takes the lead for the Leafs, assisted by Sandine and Lilly. Nice little friggin' clapper from Matthews. Love it.
Well, it was nice little slap pass by Lilly from the point, right? And then Matthews' beautiful tip.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm fucking forgot about that one. You're right.
It's okay.
That was that one. That's okay. I make mistakes sometimes. That's why
We all do.
Steph is under the weather. Steph has better game notes than I do. So what was interesting about the second, though, that we got to talk about is this weird exchange of penalties. So how did this all start? Because I kind of looked up in the middle of this going on.
So Bunting and Mayfield were getting into it in the corner, and then kind of jawing at each other up the ice, and who knows what they were yelling at each other, because we've kind of gotten used to Bunting being that type of player, so God only knows what he was saying on the ice. And then after the whistle, they just kind of, Bunting made sure that he was right there at Mayfield when the whistle was blown, when the play was ended, and they just started going at it, which is fine. That's what he does. He tries to goat the other team into taking penalties, and all hell just broke loose.
So I took a screenshot of what the original listing on NHL.com was. It was actually then changed, funny enough. So the first one, let me pull it up here, was that Scott Mayfield was serving a penalty for Cal Clutterbuck. Like, this is when it just really confused all of Twitter. So Cal Clutterbuck, unsportsmanlike conduct served by Scott Mayfield. Michael Bunting, roughing against Cal Clutterbuck. Michael Bunting, unsportsmanlike conduct against Scott Mayfield. Cal Clutterbuck, roughing against Michael Bunting. Then they changed it to Mayfield and Bunting unsportsmanlike against each other, and then roughing Michael Bunting and Cal Clutterbuck against each other. So somehow 3 guys go to the dressing room, 2 from one team, 1 from the other, and it results in 5-on-5 play. And this confused literally everybody watching the game. So Biehner, you have an explanation of what the hell happened here. So why don't you explain to all of us like we're 5-year-olds?
So the funny part is both screenshots I can actually see a justification for how it could still be 5-on-5. Like the first one, that both penalties were assessed to Clutterbuck, and both obviously 2 to Clutterbuck and 2 to Bunting, but then the one was being served by Mayfield. Well, Clutterbuck had that cut on his eye, so he went to the room right away because it had to get patched up. So that kind of would make sense. And then didn't think anything of it because you had mentioned something in the chat, so I quickly pulled up NHL.com and looked, and that's what I saw. So I was like, oh, okay, whatever. This is why. And that wasn't a good enough answer for you. And then they changed it, and then you shared that screenshot, and it's like, okay, yeah. So the fact that Bunting had 2 separate minors, but it was against 2 separate players, they basically just treat it as if it was 2 standalone incidents, right? So you look at the first one, whether the first one is him and Mayfield or him and Clutterbuck. In this case, the first one should be him and Mayfield. That's an incident, in and of itself. And then the one with him and Clutterbuck is completely different.
Yeah, I mean, when you break it down to like 2 penalties and 2 penalties, obviously it shakes out that way. It just seems really weird when they don't like come out and announce all the penalties on the ice, and they just like send people off to the dressing room. You're like, what what the hell just happened? Like, why don't we get an explanation of this?
Well, and that's the other thing too. I think there was only a minute and a half, minute and 20 left in the second.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's like, you know what? I don't even want you guys in the box because you'll be jawing each other through the glass. Just go to the dressing rooms.
Yeah, man, Wes McCauley, interesting style of reffing, I gotta say.
I'd still rather
Heck,
him than Graham.
yeah. Well, at least the game is safe when Wes McCauley's reffing it.
That's true.
So third period, Josh Bailey with 3 minutes left ties it up. This was just like, I mean, everyone, the line. If you're the goaltender, tend the goal. I don't get what Shalgren was doing here, man. The defense have been so good all week. They've always played well in front of him. Like all night, everybody was on, and he could have just let them play that and stayed in the net. I don't know why, in the dying minutes when the Islanders are looking for a goal, he decided to play that.
So the only, like, I can't see a reason why he would either. If you're thinking about it as the fact that he's the goalie of record, he's the starting goalie for tonight. Like, the game's on him. But if you look at everything else, the fact that there's been so much, you had Samsonov and Shalgren for pretty much the majority of the season at this point. Sammy goes down. Shalgren comes in. They call up Petruzzelli. Basically right away, Murray comes back from injury. And even, what was it, the second practice? Maybe third after Murray was back from injury. Samsonov was practicing as well. So even though he's on IR, you would think most of the main practice time is going to be put towards Sammy and Murray as much as they can take.
Fair.
And then you have Sanford and any other staff that's working with the goalies who's going to be focusing on Petro and Shalgren for when Petro was still up. He's obviously back down with Marlies now. One of Shalgren's big weak points has been handling the puck. So I don't know.
Just don't handle the puck.
No, I know, but
like there's a really, that's the thing. It's just don't go back there. It's not even a bad handling. It's like decision making at that point. Just stay in the net. Like in that situation, if you have time after time just not been good at that, just, maybe let the team play this one out.
The only thing I can think of is that they've been working on that a lot in practices, like on his puck handling, when to do it and stuff like that. So in his head, it's like, oh, hey, we've been doing that a lot lately. I'm feeling really comfortable with it. Now's a good time. And it was not a good time.
Yeah, this isn't one of those animated. Have you ever watched one of those sports animes where like there can be an entire storyline around like learning one trick, and then they go to the game and like everything is set up perfectly to do the one thing that they practiced, and it's like, oh, I get to do this thing, and they do it, and it's like, yeah, we won because that one thing I practiced. That's why practicing is good. Yeah, no, doesn't always happen that way.
But it's weird. I can't, for the life of me, and someone's probably going to be like, no, this person. I can't think of a Swedish goaltender who's ever been good at handling the puck.
Henrik Lundqvist.
No, come on now. He didn't even come out of his crease to challenge. He played so deep in his crease. Like, he was a great, phenomenal goalie. Deserves to be in the Hall of Fame right away. But he wasn't a great puck handler.
Oh, okay. If you're talking like just strictly like out of the net, yeah. Like puck handling that way, yeah, no, I can't think of one. No.
Something
Swedish.
about the Nordic countries, even Finnish, I can't really, off the top of my head, like maybe Saros?
Are you saying Michael Tellqvist was not good at puck handling?
No. Mike, I see similarities all the time, Tellqvist and Shalgren.
I'm starting to see it more too, man. It's getting rough. Okay, so the Islanders took a too many men on the ice penalty, but it wasn't enough. Leafs didn't get anything out of that. So Wallstrom also fighting Sandin there. So, oh right. This is So Matthews. This is the Matthews knee. So Sandin jumped in and fought him, but there was also, it threw me off because there were too many men on the ice there, because that was just like kind of an aside to the whole thing that was happening. Like, oh, by the way, there were also too many people on the ice because Wallstrom didn't get off the ice.
It took me so long to figure out why there was a penalty there, like a lot longer than it should have, to be completely honest. Um, but good on Sandman. Like I get it. He's not going in there against a Vander Kane or someone who fights all the time. Like it's Wallstrom, but there was no hesitation whatsoever.
No, and that's something that everybody's been asking for is like if Matthews gets hit, popcorn gloves. Just it doesn't matter who it is, and it can't be the oldest dude on the team. I'm glad it wasn't Giordano again, and it wasn't Jason Spezza. Thank God. I mean, like it shouldn't be Sandine, but like it can be. It doesn't. It can't not be Sandine. Like, I mean, prospects shouldn't necessarily be dropping the gloves, but hey, he's a defenseman, and if he's going to jump in and defend a star, do it.
Well, and at this point, I don't think the rest of the team looks at him as a prospect or like a rookie type thing, right?
That's
Like he's been there long enough now.
how many games has he played? Like, I don't know. I would still call him a rookie. No.
He was there in the bubble with them. Like he's
Oh my God, yeah. COVID
right.
years.
Everything's all messed up.
It's been shortened seasons, and he hasn't played the whole thing. Like, I don't know. It's been looks. Classic Leafs. You get to play 10 games a year for 5 years until we decide whether you're in this lineup or not.
Yeah, and that's fine to do with someone like Justin Hall, but it shouldn't be what you're doing with someone you drafted in the first round.
Nick Robertson. By the way, his brother scored again. His 12 goals and 15 assists.
And they're going to a shootout.
Nice. But yeah, I mean, like this is something that everybody's been asking for. So I'm glad that the message is getting around that like, hey, don't let the Stars get beat up on like that. Because I mean, we saw the Department of Player Safety is not always going to have your back, like what happened with McDavid. So if you want vengeance, take it in the moment.
Basically, there's two players on the team that I don't want going in there at that moment in time. Marner and Tavares.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't like
Because
Gio going in there just because the idea of the oldest guy always having to jump in bothers me. But
he's the one that would know the situation best and know like it's more ingrained in him that that's what you do than some of the young kids. So it's
but
almost
that's what I
expected.
mean is that's what I mean is that it's ingrained in him already, so it doesn't mean much if he does it. It's just like, yeah, because he hasn't been here that long. It means more to me if it's like somebody that's from this system that's been here a while, that's part of this, like, eating through all the shit for 6 years and all that. So if any of them start to take that step, it just means a little more. I guess that's my point.
Yep.
Overtime. We're all the way back here where we started at overtime. What the hell? Like, I don't know what combination. I mean, I know they're down Riley. Liljegren wasn't bad. He didn't make the mistakes in OT there.
I think he has probably been the most stable, most reliable defenseman on the ice since he's come back.
No kidding.
Like,
and I'm glad with all the opportunity he's had with everyone getting hurt, he's thriving instead of, panicking under the pressure.
well, not only that, we're not getting a Robertson scenario where Keith's benching him for God knows why. Like
Yeah,
he's
that's
playing,
getting
he's playing
frustrating.
consistently. He's logging big minutes, and it's going to be great for his development. I just like I didn't mind the setup with Lily and Matthews and Willie, but like the stuff that was going on, it started out looking great. They had control, and then it was just a couple icings and the brutal giveaway by Willie, and then from there it just seemed like everything just went for shit.
Yeah, and there doesn't seem to be a lineup that's the right combination. Like at this point with the Leafs, anytime something happens this many times in a row, it's no longer like something that they can fix other than it's mental. Like, come on, a team this good doesn't go 1-5 in overtime. Actually, let's rewind. There's something we didn't talk about here before overtime happened, and that's the entire last minute of the game of the dead puck against the boards. And I'm sorry, the Leafs were the ones kind of in charge of that whole thing. Like they were the ones holding it there for the most part. And they're the team that absolutely sucks in overtime. So I don't know what they were doing trying to force this thing to OT.
I wonder if part of it is the only way you're gonna get rid of that elephant in the room or to get that monkey off your back is to do it, right? At that point, you're already there. You're basically in overtime as it is. Just get it there. Let's get it done. Let's shut everybody up and go for the win.
I don't know. It didn't seem like
It
the best idea in that situation.
it's almost like they get to 3-on-3 and they think it's a pickup game or a shimmy game, to end a practice up or to start a morning skate or something silly like that, right? Like
Yeah, they almost
that
get
drop.
too like we're really good. Let's do something. Let's pull off a Michigan. Like let's stop letting Zegers take all the highlights. Let's do something fun. It's like no, you're 1-4. Let's just put it in the net because now you're 1-5.
That little drop from Marner to nobody to the Islanders, like that was what was that?
Oh, brutal. And like the shot, I'm glad that they zoomed in on Nylander when the game ended on the bench there, because like the shot of him sitting on the bench where he's just like, "Ooh, I did not look good on that one." Yeah, you didn't, bud. Like I'm glad they made everyone eat that in the reviews or the replays on the jumbotron there.
Did you catch Keith's face, by the way, when they iced it the second time?
No, I didn't.
he
I'll have to find
like
that.
he was livid on the bench and just shaking his head and pacing up and down the bench. Like I get it, I'd be pissed too in that situation.
Oh God, yeah. All right. Speaking of being pissed, instead of questions tonight, I asked you guys for your hot takes. So let's do it for the first time ever. Hot takes. I just, while we were talking, downloaded a Fireball burst for that.
That'd be
Um, so first one comes from Leafs Nation, our Leafs Nation. If Shaw stays in the fucking net, we're never going to OT in the first place. I mean, yeah, that's kind of the gist of the third period. Is had he not gone behind the net to play that and coughed it up, we wouldn't be here in the first place. But yeah, I get it. We still blew it in overtime after that, but like it's one of those. I don't know which comes first, which is worse. Eh.
that's not really
Benito the
that hot.
Bass. No, Benito the Basset Hound. This is a hot one. Leafs in 5, then Leafs in 7, then Leafs in 4, then Leafs in 7. I mean, that's hot. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. There's some oven mitts needed for that one.
Who do you think the two sevens would be against? One in the East and then the finals.
The one in the
Second
East,
round.
which would second round.
Yeah, second round in the East. I would say that's probably Boston
Yeah,
because they'll probably end up first in the division. Leafs will be like second or third or something.
and then it'll be Vegas in the final.
Ooh, you think?
Yeah, because when they do eventually make it, it's going to be something ridiculous, like either an expansion team's winning their first cup or the Leafs end their drought in 50 some odd years or whenever they actually get there, right? Like, it's not going to be, oh, Leafs versus, I guess Detroit's in their division now, so East going to be in the West. Leafs versus Chicago, like, two original six teams. It's not going to be two teams that have been there in their history. There's going to be some crazy storyline that's going to make everybody cheer against the Leafs.
That's fair. That's fair. I was gonna say Leafs and Dallas would be a 7-game series in the finals.
There's no storyline there
No,
though.
but I just see it happening. I like yours better then. So then Kate Gesman at Cater Gesman. Let's throw it back to preseason game with 4D. They won after all. Opens up 2 forward spots, so Keefe would have to play Robertson, right?
I guess, and I guess that would work with he's been openly talking about wanting to get, the big boys a little more rest throughout the season so they're fresher for playoffs.
Well, then maybe we do like 5D and get Robertson in there.
Just put Yarncroke back on the point. Play dress him, but keep him on the point.
Or actually dress Mitch Marner for an entire game on defense.
But see, Nicky Bobby would be better back there because he's got the shot, right?
Oh, that's true, actually.
You need Marner going around like a little water bug because that's how he's more effective.
Yeah, Roberts is good at just hanging around and like watching what's going on. He would be good at that. And to get him the minutes he needs. Hey, there it is. You know what? Dangle was right. Nick Robertson is a defenseman. God. Mike the Fanatic. Thanks, Mike. 3-on-3. Could we just not? Eric Shalgren. Could we just not? Gaining center, then playing the puck back, giving the opponent a 2-1-9. Could we friggin' not, Willie? The overtime was the worst hockey I've seen the Leafs play in years. Holy smokes. Yeah, I mean, it's not really a hot take, but I agree. That was awful.
Yeah, we've. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. We've talked about the overtime a couple times now with Willie's mess ups and then Marner there. It's got to be better.
Yeah. Clay Beliefs. Forget offside reviews. Offside should be abolished altogether. Gone the way of the 2-line pass. History. Ooh, this is a hot one. What do you think of that?
Geez.
Getting rid of offside altogether.
No, I've heard people talk about that, and then I've played in tournaments before where there's no offsides, and you always just get someone who's like, you would have Phil Kessel standing beside the opposing goal the entire game.
Yeah, like the whole problem is it's just divulged so far from where it started, which is Duchesne was literally halfway through the fucking zone when he got the puck. Like, I think it just needs to be, unless the refs, I don't know, how did that one all play out? Like, did they agree on the ice? Like, yeah, we missed that, but we can't review it.
There wasn't even like, I don't think there was anything at all at the time on the ice because there wasn't any form of review whatsoever for something like that.
It should be like, if it doesn't pass the eye test, we're not reviewing it. Like, we're not going to cameras, we're not going to the line. Like, if you can, like, we'll watch it real time, and if it doesn't look like it was offside, then like, we're not going into this. But then it's too judgment. Like, fucking just get rid of it. I'm with you. Just get rid of it.
Wait, are you saying get rid of the challenge or get rid of offsides in general?
I don't know, all of it. It all sucks.
Geez.
I don't know. Honestly, like, which one do I like? I hate more, the challenge or the actual offside? I don't know. Like you said, I don't play, so I don't know what it's like to play without offsides, but I don't ever turn it off in like chell games for a reason.
you unless they've completely changed 23. I haven't bought 23 at this point. I doubt you're going to be experiencing these goal line calls that are like that. Or blue line calls that are like that, sorry.
Here's another hot one. This is from this wasn't even a reply to one, but still a hot take. Mad witticism. Johnny lost. Johnny sucks. Johnny slow. Johnny needs to be traded to Anaheim. I like that one. That's fun. So what do we think here? We're coming into New Jersey next. Like, we just did this. I don't know what to think, man. Like, do they clean up mistakes, or is it, we've got New Jersey's number, we know how to do it this time, and we're not going to make the same mistakes we did last game? Like, it could go either way.
Pittsburgh 2.0.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yep, I called it last episode. The Leafs are going to break the streak.
Yeah. And I really hope it's they go to 0 and Marner goes to 14, because that'd be sweet. Do we got anything else here before we GTFO? Anything fun happen?
Makar set the record for fastest defenseman to 200 points.
That he did. And good for him. The other thing I want to touch on actually is because Saturday. Yeah, that's fun. In case anyone missed it, Jack.
Before you say that's fun, we don't wish him any ill will. Like, we're not.
No,
we're not hoping
no.
he gets injured.
No, it's just it's just it's an objectively funny story. Being, come on, how many times have you seen someone get injured on the bench?
Oh, very, very few.
Jack Campbell took a puck to the face on the bench. Like, the cherry on top of being a healthy scratch for all these games, sitting on the bench. Like, just, ugh. They got to give him a full cage while he's there now.
Well, and like I think, in a lot of some people are commenting on it too with takes like this. Is that like he stopped a puck while on the bench, not even in the game, and he's not stopping them on the ice.
Yeah, he's got a perfect 1.0 while he's on the bench. That's impressive. Oh, lordy. Anyway, Saturday, I was kind of dragging Hockey Night in Canada a bit, as was the rest of Twitter, because it was less than entertaining. And then I shared a video from the Seattle Kraken broadcast where they were talking about, the matchup between Seattle and LA. And I think the context, not the context, but the messaging behind me posting was lost on some of the people. Not everybody. A lot of people got what I was trying to say, but a lot of people were commenting on the fact that in the video, the Seattle broadcaster is basically just explaining what LA is doing and kind of like explaining hockey to what would be a new fan base in Seattle. But they're talking about the game and, look at this setup that LA has of 1-3-1 and how Seattle's going to break through this. And, they're following up on it throughout the game and creating a storyline and yada, yada. I'm not talking about, I want to see Canadian broadcasters explain to me what's going on in the game. It's the fact that they created a storyline and they followed up on it throughout the game. And they're talking about what their team is going to do to win instead of, oh my God, have you seen how big Tage Thompson is?
It was almost like a Manning cast, right? Like they were actually breaking it down as if a coach or a player would, like as if you're sitting on the couch with Pat Quinn and watching the game and he's breaking it down to you. Like that's and you brought up a good point. That's what you need with new fan bases. Not that people in Seattle don't know hockey, but they have WHL hockey and stuff like that, but they haven't had an NHL team in 100 years.
Yep. And just shout out to at Frizzbob on Twitter. This is one that I reposted. Mitch Marner's on a 13-game point streak, longest in the league this year. Broadcast has given Cal Clutterbuck having a lot of hits more attention tonight. This league is a fucking joke. And it's not this league. It's Canadian broadcasts for some reason. And everyone's like, oh, it's the American broadcast style. They talk about, the play and everything more. And, Canadians are just, we're educated in hockey. So, we don't need to be like, get off your high horse. You don't need to be taught the game like that. Like, there's a lot of people here that don't know. And look what's happening. The hockey viewership is diminishing. So maybe we, stop being gatekeepy and saying that we don't have to always explain what's going on, because not everybody watching the game knows what's going on. And it's fun to create something that people can look for throughout the game, right? Like, it makes everybody more informed fans. And, people complain that, oh, it's exactly what people are saying on Twitter. Okay, well, would you not rather the people on the broadcast are saying the same types of things that you're feeling and reading online than just being angry at everything they're saying because you don't agree with it? Like,
Well,
I don't want to listen to people say that the New Jersey Devils are the real deal. Thank you, Keith Yandel, for settling that one down and saying, no, they're not making the playoffs, guys. Settle down.
well, and it's not only that. Like, okay, yeah, that might be what most people are saying on Twitter, but my 6-year-old's not on Twitter.
Exactly,
if
right?
if he's watching the game with me, I want, like, yes, he asks me questions and I try to break down and give him as educational of answers as I can when we're watching the game. Because if he's asking, then he's showing a genuine interest. So I want to give him a good answer, not just, oh, just because, or, you want to do what you can. But that being said, I don't want Gord Miller, no offense to Gord, I just picked a name, just going on and on and on about how, like you said, Tage Thompson is so tall and so big. And, like, okay, we get it. He's a big player. It's gotten to the point where they're almost dumbing it down for us. And the ESPN broadcasts are so much better. The TNT broadcasts are so much better.
Even like the Bill of Sports and all the local ones, like it's just so much different when you get to watch one of the American broadcasts because it's like I said, they create a storyline. It's this player on your team against this player on the other team instead of Tage Thompson, this guy on the other team, comparing to Mario Lemieux, a guy who also didn't play for your team ever. Like let's talk about this. This is what all the Leaf fans want to see on this national broadcast. Like what? There's a Buffalo broadcast going on right now. You know that, right? With Homer broadcasters, like you don't need to talk about this.
Well, and that's the other thing. Why is it that like Canadian teams are the ones that don't have homers? Right?
I don't get it. Like it's because of the whole I know they sold the rights internationally or nationally across Canada so that, everything's broadcast, but like hey, it's not. I can't watch the fucking Leaf games here in Ottawa, so it's, you know, there's basically a local broadcast when it's TSN here and Sportsnet in Toronto or something. So it's like, why don't you just let them have Homer broadcasters if they're going to be
Bring
broadcast
Bowen
only to
back.
Canadian? If it's only going to be on for Canadians, like, what's the difference? I understand if it's like, you know, Oilers and Flames or something, or, even Ottawa and Toronto or any combination of the Canadian teams. But like that just makes it more fun because then it's, you know, you get to find out which, the broadcaster that night is a bit more on one side than the other. And, everybody gets to call them out for it. Or maybe the two of them are against each other in the booth. So, it makes it fun when you let them be fans. And instead in Canada, we're just like, nope, we have to be proper and conservative about everything we do in entertainment because that is how this country does entertainment.
But then it's not entertainment.
No,
Like I
no.
I would rather have Bowen and people trying to chirp us saying they don't like Bowen's homer takes. Like as you said, it's engagement. It gets fans into it, and it gets the interaction with other fan groups. Like I can't stand Jack Edwards. There's no
No,
way in hell I'd be watching a Boston game and watching him do the game. And some of his takes are ridiculous,
but if I was a Boston fan, I'd love it. And I get it.
right? Like
And it's,
so many people watch the Leaf game and they sync it to the radio broadcast of Joe Bowen and Jim Ralph doing the game.
yeah, a lot of people on Twitter have told me to just do that. And I honestly just might. Like, it just seems like the whole entertainment package in Canada of the NHL is so commercialized and manufactured. Like, if you look at a Leaf game, if you're watching it on TV, it's, like we just talked about, it's a national broadcast where they talk about American teams, the players on the other team, whatever dumb storyline or something that's going on. Um, and then, um, sorry, and then you have in the arena where you've got seats that no children can afford and families can afford to bring, like, multiple kids unless they're extremely wealthy, but everything in the arena is somehow geared towards like 5 and 6 year olds and families, and they play like the worst top 40 music that hockey fans are not into. And it's just it doesn't seem like any part of the production has any thought towards the community into it. It's just like, here's what you're gonna like. Here's basically the equivalent of pop music across the board for your broadcast. And it's like, you have so much money and so many resources within the hockey world, like literally all of them. Can you please put some of them to use? And I'm tired of this. They do the next gen game where like once a year they bring on a couple kids to be like, what would you like to see? And then they don't do anything. And they throw a bunch of avatars and fun nicknames and emojis on the screen. And they're like, look, we care. Meh.
Yeah,
And I'm done.
no, but they've shown not necessarily the Leafs, but the league has shown some half-ass interest in trying to change things and trying to get more communities and more age groups involved. And like you said, they never follow through.
No, they
Like
just
look
canceled
at
Rogers Hometown Hockey instead.
baseball. It sounds so silly, but don't they have one game a year or a weekend a year or something where they can use their nicknames or their Twitter handles or something on the back of their jerseys instead of their last names?
Oh, that's fun. And what was that lower tier hockey league that was doing the Dumb and Dumber night? Did you see that? Where they're having like the two jerseys on either team. One of them's like a blue tuxedo jersey, and the other one's an
I
orange
didn't see
tuxedo
that one.
jersey.
No.
It looks sick. They're doing it, I think, some night in December. But it's just, and I've seen like Hawaiian shirt nights and other hockey leagues and stuff. Like there's fun things they can do, and I get it. Like we just have all these reverse retro things going on, and that's the NHL's version of it. But it always seems like it's the, you know, the smallest deviation possible, and we're all like, oh my gosh, they did something. Like we're always so, I guess, satisfied with the smallest progress from the NHL. Like anything,
It's because it's
like
taken 117 years to get here.
well, that's what I mean. Like these new jerseys come out, and like, look, the coolest one, the Florida Panthers one, was the biggest step that anyone's taken in a while, and they sold out.
And it looks like
Case
trash
in
on
point.
the ice.
Yeah, it's not as great on the ice than the pictures.
But like something silly like that though, like for Matthews, instead of Matthews on the back of his jersey, have at AM34 or Poppy or whatever, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
because
something.
then it confuses people, and it almost like kind of challenges the people watching to be like, oh, these are their nicknames, and it kind of like forces you to learn their numbers too, because you're like, wait, okay, 34 is Matthews, Matthews is Poppy, got it. Like you get to be a part of the circle.
When there'd be so many more fun things, right? Like when Janssen was on the team a couple years ago, like to see him skate out and he'd have mango on the back of his jersey, like
Oh yeah,
right,
and just
or
the rat for
or
bunting.
Goss Despair. When he was
Ghost.
in Philly, someone had a jersey made up literally with two emojis on the back, of the ghost emoji and a bear emoji.
Oh my god, that's
Right? Like
amazing.
something like that would be just absolutely hilarious.
Ghost Bear. That's so fun.
Right? Like just
I
something
love it.
it would be, it's so silly, and as you said, it's something so small, but kids would love it, fans would love it, people on social media would love it. Like you see someone from every team tweet out at some point during a game day the lineups, and they have all the players as emojis. Have Engvall
Oh,
skate
that's
out
good.
there with a giraffe emoji on his back instead of Engvall. Like,
Have Arbor Jack Eye with just like a 40 character Wi-Fi password on his jersey.
no, just with the little Wi-Fi, like the logo, right?
Oh,
The lines.
yeah, that'd be fun too. But see, like it's so easy to do things, and like in baseball, how they have walk-up songs and stuff. Like, it's things like that. I think the other thing that baseball does well is the spring training, like the fact that they don't play their preseason. I mean, a lot of that has to do with the weather. I guess they're forced that way. But, if you could bring more of the preseason to smaller towns, like they tried to do where they had the Leafs and Sens play in Belleville, like why play any of the preseason games in big arenas if you're going to fucking extend it to like 7, 8 games anyway? Like, just do a tour of small towns.
Well, the NHL used to do that. Like, if I remember correctly, the Red Wings used to do their preseason in Brantford,
That's sick.
right? Like, you'd have Gordie Howe, Red Kelly, Terry Sawchuk, all of them playing in the old Civic Center in Brantford. Like, I grew up in Brantford. Stuff like that's really cool, right? And each team kind of had their certain area where they would play.
Yeah, I think the Leafs did one in Coburg not too long ago. I want to say like 5, 6 years ago. So it's out there. It's just slow. And like we said last time, I mean, international hockey's nowhere at the same time. So it's just fucking, can we please get Bettman out and get somebody in who knows how to market this game? Because that's the thing that's been lacking is like no one knows how to sell hockey. He has been so bad at expanding the sport. He's been so for the owners just making sure they don't lose money year over year and like great. He's like the equivalent of having a, you know, conservative, fiscally conservative leader for a while. It's like, we're not spending too much. Everything's going pretty well. There's some decisions not everyone's on board with, but money's great. And it's like, okay, but
Are you saying Bettman Stephen Harper?
am I? Maybe a little.
Some shady backroom deals, but look at this. The money's okay.
Yeah, I mean, like that wasn't meant to be like a slight to either political side. It was just meant to be like, the money's great, but can you please, you know, move forward a little bit? Like, I think we need a progressive in charge of the NHL for a term or two.
Times need to change, and with everything going on, in the world and in the sports world, especially the hockey world right now, there's plenty of women out there that could do a hell of a better job than Bettman is.
No kidding. I also saw a lot of people on Twitter shouting out Cassie Campbell Pascal on the panel tonight. They did a really good job. I think a lot of people are just getting used to seeing her on TV. A lot of people were not familiar. You know, women's hockey has not had the spotlight it should have. So people are kind of learning after her career who she is, which is unfortunate, but it's the reality we live in of women's sports right now, unfortunately. So yeah.
Same as Wickenheiser, right? Like,
Yeah.
she's good on her. She's big into her career right now in the medical field. So I don't know how interested she would be to get into a bigger role like with Hockey Canada, or even she's had a couple different promotions within the Leafs organization, but whether or not she wants to take that any further, who knows, because she's a doctor. But someone like her, or like Cassie Campbell, anybody, there's so many women who, and we've touched on this many times as well, so I feel like a broken record, but they've had to try so much harder to keep playing the game they love at a higher level than any of the men have ever had to, because they didn't have a place to play.
Yeah.
Basically, once they're of high school age, that's it. They can play in college, can play in university, but they have to keep continuing to take courses, or else they can't play. Right? Like, it's better now. They've got different leagues, and they're working. Hopefully, at some point, there can be a unified league that the NHL actually stands behind. Bettman.
Yeah, again, right? And shout out Toronto Six, who've been a good growing project over the last couple of years. We have a hot take that I missed. This is on our Discord. It's from Cali Cartel. We talked about this too. Dubas is going to make a blockbuster trade. So I guess let's quickly, before we sign off here, touch on the other side of this. We've talked about people coming in, but we haven't talked about what would have to go out for that to happen. So, you know, we don't just send money one way and get a player back. So what would you be okay with losing right now within the system to bring in a defender to save the current situation?
It's such a, I don't want to say loaded, but it's such an odd question, because we don't, like, who are we bringing in? All right, if we're bringing in
if the ask is like 2 firsts, right? If it's something in that range, a first and a second, like if it's a high end person, like what are you willing to move on from here? Let's say it's Jacob Chikrin.
Chikrin, at this point, I'd want some sort of clause in there that if he only plays a handful of games, we're getting like a first or a second back. Like, he, as great of a defenseman as he is, and he's still young, and he hasn't shown, like, he hasn't unlocked all of his potential at this point. He's only played a handful of games in the last 200-300 days, right? Like,
I know, but someone will do it without the clause. That's the thing. I think somebody's just going to go swing for the fences on him.
Oh, and probably, but the asking price at this point, I think, is way too high, especially for someone who's only just tonight played his first game back. Like, I think when I looked, he had played 24 minutes, so it's not like they eased him into it. They threw him in.
Yeah.
But, like, I realistically, as long as you're getting a reasonable return, I don't want to move on from Nyes right now. I don't want to move him, but with his usage, Nicky Bobby.
Yeah, see, that's going to be the ask, right? Like, he's been scratched, so they're going to go, okay, if you're not using him, can we have him? Like, I feel like that's going to be the first question.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, right after Matt Nyes, which has been, it almost like gives Leaf fans some hope that everybody's been asking for Matthew Nyes, and we've had to keep saying no, because like nobody's really seen him play yet. But it's like, if everybody wants him, then it's a good sign.
Well, it's not only that, like, as silly as it sounds, Nyes, the chances of Nyes helping us right now, this year or next year, are still fairly slim. Not that he couldn't, But this is the wheelhouse for Nicky Bobby. He's still young enough. Like he's what, only 21 years old?
Yeah.
Like it's not like he's a lost prospect. Teams are still going to be interested in him, and he still has a chance to flourish. But not with how he's being used. I have no idea why they're not sending him down. Okay, I get it. He gets to practice with a big team. The money's better, blah, blah, blah. Everybody says coming back from an injury, rehabbing, whatever you want to call it, nothing can replace game action.
Yeah, I don't get it.
So
And
if
unless
he's
you're going
not,
to take somebody out and put him in, you got to move on, because it's like you're saying with Nyes, like the people that are down the pipe, you know, Nyes and Niemela and all these other young guys, they're another couple years ahead, right? Like they're a couple years down the road. Where we're at with Robertson is like we need something, you know, now till 4 years from now. And unless you're going to really turn him into something this year, he's not going to be useful for you for the next 3 years. So it's like it's kind of at that decision point, and I don't know why they're making this decision, but it seems like they're wanting to move on from him. Like I don't get it.
basically at this point, I would have to say I'm not moving Nyes. I'm not moving Pexa. And I'm not moving probably Ty Voigt. Aside
Yeah,
from that, like aside from those three, as far as I'm concerned, any of my prospects are available as long as it's a reasonable return. Like I'm not talking about a Luke Shen trade here. I'm talking about a Samuel Girard or something of that ilk, like a legitimate blockbuster trade.
okay, so Sam Gerard is a better one, I guess, to compare to instead of Chikrin. So say you're going for a Luke Shen, then what do you try to move? Kerfoot? Send him out to Vancouver, where he's from?
Um, if the Canucks would be up for something like that, like definitely. Um, the
What's the
Leafs have a
money difference
ton.
there?
The Leafs have a ton
Ooh,
well, Shen's only like 700,000.
850, yeah.
Yeah, so that I don't think like that as far as we're concerned, that would be a win for us. Um, but there's so many players down on the Marlies right now that are playing great, and I know everybody always thinks their prospects are better than everybody else's, but there's a reason why the Leafs cannot put anybody on waivers without them getting claimed
Yeah.
because they have an ability to recognize talent as much as Canadian mainstream sports media mocks them for it because they're not big and truculent and whatever other descriptive word Brian Burke used to use. Like, there's so many players down there teams would be interested in. And if you're going after someone like a Shen, it'd probably be enough to do it. Like, you could maybe move, not saying I want to, but you could maybe move Joey Anderson for Shen or Steves or, right? Like, it doesn't have to be your best prospect.
That's true. Anderson or Steves kind of makes sense. And uh, Luke Shen just makes sense money wise because you are wanting Brody and Riley to come back. Like I know we've been talking about making a big move here, but that's kind of to fill the Muzzin hole. But I mean, as they've been playing right now, the Muzzin hole is getting smaller. So I
You know
think if
what?
you can patch this up a bit and hold over until you get Brody and Riley back, I think they're going to be okay.
Let's go blockbuster. Big time
Okay.
blockbuster.
Who
Nicky
is it?
Bobby. So Nicky Bobby, Mac Hollowell, and Ronnie Hervinen
Okay.
for Bo Horvat and Luke Shen.
Oh shit.
I guess you'd have to throw Engvall or Kerfoot in there or move them to someone else to help clear cap space, but
Yeah, I mean, you might be able to send, like I said, Kerfoot's from out there in BC, so maybe you send Kerfoot back with the prospects to get Horvat and Shen. Because I mean, look, they don't with the way that the Canucks are playing, they don't need Luke Shen.
no, they don't.
Um, and they need somebody that's producing points for a middle contract like Kerfoot is. So I think it kind of makes sense. They can't afford
And
Horvat.
you get the prospect in there with Hervinen.
But then what do you do with Horvat after?
Worry about that later. As silly as it sounds, everybody's
I know.
right. You get everybody saying every year, "Oh, this is the year. If they don't do something, everybody's gone. They're blowing the team up." Figure it out
Just
later.
do it. Just do it. Look, we're years past that one trade deadline, and both Nick Foligno and Taylor Hall are still on the fucking Boston Bruins somehow. So it worked out for them. They ended up with both. That is my least favorite of the last few trade deadlines. For like, which one are we gonna get? The bad one, and then he got good again after.
That's a trade that Marty's been pimping is Horvat to the Leafs.
I don't dislike it at all. I think it's. I mean, look, extra firepower is never a bad thing on this team, and I know I've said that's kind of redundant, but at this point, look, just these 2-1 games are making me annoyed.
The Leafs are top 10 in the league for fewest goals against right now.
They just got to score.
Mm-hmm. As much as Anson Carter and the mainstream media want to tell you that their defense is terrible and they're having an issue keeping the puck out of the back of the net,
They're
it's
really
not
not.
the defense. It's not the defense that's been doing us in the playoffs. It's the secondary scoring.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. We out of here. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks so much. We'll be back after the Jersey game.
Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Leafs Late Night, your night of post-game podcast. Available after every game on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, and more.
Boy's got a Snorlax goalie shirt on? Are you kidding me? Link me that.